Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Extravagant Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Thursday, the 20th of June. So yeah, sorry, a little confused there with the date today because we did have off yesterday, and it kind of feels like that was a little mini weekend. But so we've got one more day to go for the week, and tomorrow is quadruple witching. So you can expect, I would think, some more rotations. I do think part of this move that we've seen, in stocks like Nvidia over the last week or so has been partly, I don't want to say has solely been driven by the rebalancing that is going to happen on Friday. But I think, part of that move is or part of the move is related to quadruple witching. And again, I'll explain this really quickly, and then we'll move on to the price action for the day. But all of the indexers, right, portfolio desks at brokers, right? So this is partly what I used to do as an institutional trader. I worked on a Delta One trading desk. I worked on an ETF trading desk, institutional trading desk, and I also did a little bit of time on a portfolio, did some portfolio desk functions too. But we used to handle the index rebalancing too. And what happens is, there's basically like one or two guys on a portfolio desk that will sit and crunch numbers once they come out from the S&P, and they'll say, "Oh, that's interesting. Like the S&P is bringing up this weight in this name, so like they're doing that in Nvidia and they're taking down Apple." Now they don't wait until all this happens on Friday on the close. They don't wait till Friday to like not just like twiddle their thumbs and not do anything. They start trading as soon as they have that data, and they estimate how impactful some of the rebalances, in case and one of them that people are talking about is the XLK, the technology ETF rebalance. But it's all of the indices, all of these indices are being rebalanced, right? That one is just getting more attention because it's a bigger rebalance. But yeah, that happens as soon as the data comes out, and I believe that was last Friday when that data was announced. So that's what you've seen. This move that you've seen over the last like 3 or 4 days, where Nvidia has a relentless bid to it. That's what's been going on. So as you get to the end of the week and portfolio desks have legged into that trade, they're going to have to unwind that trade. And that usually happens, Thursday, Friday, they'll be unwinding that trade that they put on going into tomorrow. So that's why you might see Nvidia be a little bit weak here, right? Because again, part of the move that's been happening in Nvidia, probably not all, because there has been a huge AI theme that's going on, but I wouldn't be surprised if that name sells off. And my trading account, I did sell Nvidia today. I've been holding that, for multiple weeks and making some nice money on that. I've been scaling out of the name as we go along, but I decided I sold some today at 140, and then I was out at 135. So also, when we kind of look at one of the themes of the day, first of all, the dollar has been getting stronger. The VIX was higher today, and look at the semis, the overall semis group reverse. And again, like I don't think that anybody should be shocked at this at this point. But why shouldn't you be shocked? Because this ETF has gone from 200 to 270 over the last 2 months, right? It's going to see some profit taking, right? That's just the normal course of how a market behaves. People make a lot of money in something, they begin to cash in their chips, and they'll redeploy that into usually something else, right? So reversal bar there, that's an ugly looking reversal bar for SMH, but I mean, it's been on an amazing run. Let this set up again. Right. So we'll begin to I'm just going to go through the indices today because, there were definitely some bright spots, but here's where we are in terms of the S&P. We've been above this short-term 5-period moving average since the beginning of the month. And even though we kind of tested that today, we didn't break it. So yeah, reversals are kind of a pain in the neck. They're not fun, but there's no change in trend here. And if you look at the 1 hour chart too, because that has every when we look at the 1 hour chart, there's a value area for the week, right? And support is still further down. That's about another 1% down from where we started the week. So we're still above, we're still positive for the week. right? And whether you're positive for the week depends on how you've been, how you've been handling this. But here's the cues too. Notice the cues came down to the top of this week's value area, and held. So, there's a little bit of a test here. So here's a level to watch, right? If we know it's just kind of some people, cashing in a little bit, or some rotation because of quadruple witching, right? If price holds 479.50, then there's no technical damage whatsoever in this move, in my opinion, anyway. Right. Also, you could watch this 5 period moving average. Right. So we've been above the June value area for most of this month. Right. And yeah, you got to test here the 5 day moving average. Same thing for the S&P. Price has been above this 5 period moving average, trending higher for the whole month. So the one thing to kind of think about too, which again, this kind of helps, right? Because I know sometimes everybody gets very short term with their thinking in terms of, hey, I'm trying to make, every day, you're trying to make money, right? And that's fine. But you want to also have a little bit of a bigger view than just one day. And, one of the things that I've seen a lot of folks talk about is the seasonality. So July is a very strong seasonal month. So July is about a week and a half away. Next week, right, the week after quadruple witching and the end of June is not a strong seasonal time month. So if you've made some money this month, right, make sure that your job is, as we're going into weaker seasonality, is to not give it back. So you have to think about how you're going to accomplish that. Is it reducing your risk? Is it putting a hedge on to the downside so that you're hedged for a weaker seasonal period? And by the way, nothing is 100%, right? So I can't like, there's never anything, even though generally the last week or so of June is weak, that's not guaranteed. Right. And by the way, risk disclaimer in front of you, where everything that I'm going over is for information purposes only, but everything is about probabilities. So knowing that there's a higher probability chance, again, not 100%, that's the rest of June could be weaker. What adjustments are you going to be doing? If you're not going to be making any adjustments whatsoever, and you give back the profits that you made in the beginning of the month, then that's that's on you, right? And if that's your trading plan, to stick with it. Or and also if your time frame is longer than a couple of weeks out, then it may not bother you to see a little bit of a market dip if that by chance happens. So again, just something to kind of bear in mind, and to know what you're kind of up against for next week, is that weaker seasonality. But there's light at the end of that, because July is pretty darn strong. So in regards to this reversal, and one of the things that has been a major theme is that the market has been going up on weaker breath, right? We know that tech and the semis have been doing the heavy lifting, and there really hasn't much it's been very thin behind that. Today, I wouldn't say that the breath was strong, but you actually have more groups that went up today after the open versus down. So, again, and these are smaller groups, and this is gold miners, silver miners. Biotech did decently today, and you had energy in there, right? I've been talking about energy now for a good few days about the strength, and I think people finally woke up to it today. It's like, hey, crude has been having a really strong move over the last 2 weeks, right? And this was a breakdown that we saw at the end of May, which kind of continued down, and brought a lot of energy stocks and material stocks down with it too. But this is not bad looking in here. And if you can find an energy stock, again, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to switch your whole portfolio, but something like this, like a Williams, a WMB, is breaking out to new highs, right? A couple other names I was looking at today was Weatherford. Weatherford has been pretty beaten up, but I like this name, right? And again, it's what you have conviction in. XLE made a nice little turn today. We talked about this on Tuesday, that I thought energy could outperform, and it's got some resistance that it's going to have to get through, but it was up 1.8% today, right? I believe that's what it was. So ultimately not bad. And then the banks look interesting too, right? One name that I like in this group is LPLA, right? Out to new highs, right? Another name that I think is interesting here is Goldman. Another name is JP Morgan, but I kind of like the chart in Goldman a little bit better. So, you kind of have to put on your thinking hat a little bit and saying, hey, maybe I don't go all into semis at this point after, being that they might correct a little bit. Speaking of Nvidia, let's talk a little bit about this stock just for a minute, and let's talk about support. So first of all, ugly looking reversal, because the stock did finish down decently, but ultimately, like, I don't really think a trend is broken here, right? And notice as well, we're still decently above, well, not decently, but about 1.7% above the top of value. So if you're a big Nvidia trader, and I don't blame you, watch this 128.40 level. Right, SMCI also had a reversal. That was up big pre-market, and that came in pretty decently, but it didn't break down. 202, 902.87 is the level to watch there. So, and I've been a fan of Qualcomm. I actually added a little bit to my Qualcomm position because I sold some up at, right around 228, 229 last week. Now this had a deeper pullback, but ultimately I don't think anything has really changed here. And if you bring this up, I think it's going to continue to excel, and we'll see if this one holds the 20-day moving average. All right, guys. Just one other quick. So, just in conclusion, right? If you had, if your day was upset a little bit by some of these reversals that happen, just have the right perspective for this. Like, I fully understand when I'm following a trend, I'm going to make money when the name is trending up. But on the day of the reversal, I'm probably going to lose a little bit of money, right? And let's just bring up the Q. We could bring up any semiconductor. We could bring up the Qs. But if you've had a very good month at this point, right, and today you kind of got caught a little bit, just keep in mind that's going to happen, right? And I think just having perspective, because look at how overbought this got to, an 80 RSI, by the way. That is very extreme, and that could indicate that we might have a little bit more downside while we burn off that overbought levels. Notice the last time that this got this was about 77, right? Notice you had a reversal day, right, on when we got a bit hot here, right? But we actually hung in there for another week, and then we spilled lower too. So you just have to be careful when things get this overbought, right? In my opinion, you want to be reducing your risk as you go along, not adding to it as the market gets more and more overbought. All right, guys, that is it for today's recap. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.